Moving forward, we have the final session of today's regional meeting, which is going to be focusing on the power of the community. So I'm very excited to introduce our panelists for this discussion. Mr. Clayton Noble, CEO, United Way of Australia. Mr. Nguyễn Hoành Tiến, Senior Vice President, Distribution and Marketing Services, Momo, and Ms. Rosie Sujatha, Chief Operating Officer, United Way of Chennai. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Gregory Bazonsky, Vice President, Global Engagement and Special Counselor to the President and CEO, United Way Worldwide. Please give them all a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. I like this chair. These are great. Take this welcome to session 5. It was called the power of people. Now it's called the power of community. The power of people is so important in the work that we do, whether it's with government people, business people, charity people. I have a story I was telling Clayton yesterday. When I set up the United Way in China, this was almost 30 years ago. I had to deal with a lot of government officials, day after day after day, to get them to understand what we were doing and to get them to trust me and like me, and so that we can move along to joining a partnership. And this government official, one evening, after a long dinner, I asked him, "What are you afraid of?" This was a Central Committee member in China, and he was a former Politburo member, and he said to me, "There's one thing that we fear in the party, and that's the power of the people." He's told me, if the people turn on us, it's all over. Everything that we've built in China is over. And we have to do everything that we possibly can do to keep everybody appeased and everybody happy to the best of our abilities, because otherwise it could all fall apart for us. And I realized what he was saying in the COVID years, when the government everybody had to go into their flats and stay there, and there was no movement. And there was, if you remember, there was one, at least in Switzerland where I live, we got images of one man who he had had enough, and he got out of his apartment and he went to a bridge and he unfurled a banner that said, "Xi Jinping, this is crazy. You have to let people get out of their flats because we're just trapped there. We've been trying to get food and there's no medicine for our children." And he was taken away. But within 3 days of that man standing up to this party decision, it was all over. All of the restrictions came down. It was fascinating. So the man 30 years ago who told me, a high-level official in the Communist Party, that if the only thing we fear are the people, and he was so right, because things can change when people get together and want to make a difference. So our session today it's called The Power of Communities, it's the Power of People, and we've got 3 incredible panelists here, and we're going to make it worthwhile for you to staying to the last panel of the day, because you're going to learn a lot. This is going to be very interesting. Clayton Noble runs he's the CEO of the United Way in Australia, which is a very powerful organization. He's an interesting guy because he comes from a business background, and he's brought all of his strategy and everything that he knows about, certainly about Australia and certainly about Asia, but just how the world works and how business works. He's brought that to our world, the civil society world. Rosie Sujatha is the Chief Operating Officer of the United Way in Chennai in India. And it's a fascinating, I had the good fortune to visit her in her office last year. And it is really something what they do there. It's a very conservative part of India called Tamil Nadu. And they do some amazing things that step over lines in some conservative situations. But she's a fantastic leader, and Ajay Ji is also here with us, who is the CEO of the United Way of Chennai. Mr. Nguyen Huan Tien is the Senior Vice President of Distribution and Marketing Services for Momo. Momo is a massively important financial organization here in Vietnam. They have a super app. I love that term. A super app that people move all their money around, make transactions, and he's formed a crowdfunding source. So that goes exactly to what we're doing today. Clayton, if you don't mind, let me start with you, just to begin to pick your brain about how resource development and fundraising, yes, deals with or addresses the big impact issues in Australia. You do a lot of incredible things with mental health, with literacy for children. You've invented something called the Hive, which is absolutely fascinating. I hope you have a moment to talk about that. But how have you, with these innovative programs that you have, how have you managed your fundraising, massaged your fundraising to smoothly fit into these innovative programs that you're doing? Thanks, Clayton.
Yeah. Thank you, Gregory. Can you invite me back when I've worked it out? Because it's a tough gig, isn't it, fundraising? Particularly in the scenario where a charity like United Way is looking for helping to fix complex, messy issues that are going to take a long time to fix. We often talk about social innovation in terms of technology and business innovation, but innovation at its grassroots level is about taking a complex issue, applying a novel approach to it, looking for systems change and collaborating with others to do that. Now, it sounds very easy to just roll those four things off your tongue, but it's a very, very difficult thing to actually address the complex issues in the world today, because you don't resolve them overnight. They take years and years and years and years. Sometimes it's a decade before you start to see the dial of disadvantage move. And I know on some of the big programs that we run in Australia, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 years of funding cycles. And my experience, Gregory, is that you have to keep on coming back about every 5 years and reinventing the wheel and saying, okay, what do I need to do now? We have a couple of programs which have now, we're into our third 5-year funding cycle. And there's a couple of key principles that is really important to keep those sorts of large-scale, innovative projects alive. Number one, it's about empowerment of community. Unless you have the trust of community, unless you have their buy-in, their co-design of the solution, because we don't know the solution. It's the people you're working with, it's the residents, the community. They know the solutions that they need. It's not about us parachuting in and telling them what they need. So first and foremost, it's about making sure there is trust at that community level. They're with you along the way. Otherwise, the project's a failure. It will fail. Funders will not come and fund you if they feel like your solution is not absolutely smack bang where community are looking for. The second issue is diversity of funding. Very few funders are willing to fund something for 10 or 20 years. They'll have their cycles. So it's about addressing the various categories of funders in a way that makes sense to them. In some of our, maybe our family foundations, our high net worth individuals, it's about telling them the stories of what's happening in community, the impact it's having. And you're reeling after the heart stories, the storytelling. Be very good storytellers if you want money. That's a critical thing. The other big funder in many of these social complex issues is government funding. Government don't particularly want to know about the heart. They want to know about the head. So we do a lot of measurement and evaluation of our systems impact work. So what are our programs doing on the ground? What are the lead indicators? What are the lag indicators? What are those individual level KPIs that we need to talk about? What are the macro ones? What's the population level changes? You need to be able to tell a story around return on investment and impact. So it's about crafting the story to the right group of people and taking everybody along a very, very long journey.
Our session is limited today, so I was told I can ask one question and then we'll see later. But I've got to ask you a follow-up question, Clayton. And here's the rough one. Every year, and Dr. Kieran Mai gave us the numbers at the beginning of the afternoon, that United Way and $3-4 billion and all that. But it's every year. So we come back for the same issues every year. So the tough question is, when are you guys going to solve this? You're asking us year on year for money to address the same things. When are you going to get to the point, or are you going to get to the point? Or are you just going to continue to come back to us year on year to ask for funding for these same things? Clayton is one of the few people I could imagine that could answer this quickly and smoothly to a donor. So how would you handle that?
It's a great question, Gregory. And if we are talking about resolving entrenched disadvantage, the conversation is not so much around what are we doing to fix the problem in totality. It's what are we doing to change the conditions. You can change the underlying conditions, the result will come eventually. So the conversations with those funders is, let's look for those indicators of changing conditions. It's not about, for example, it takes a village to change, to raise a child. It's about what do we do to change the conditions in the village to help the child prosper.
Brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that, Clayton. Mr. Nguyen, you are a very, very senior person at Momo, which is critically important to everyone who does internet financing in Vietnam. It's an incredible tool. I've been all over your site. One thing to mention is I looked at all your senior people. You've got one woman amongst all these men. She's from India, which is fine, but there's just one woman amongst all your senior level folks. But we'll talk about that after the session. With this incredible tool that you have, I've got to ask you, I'm not going to ask you to sell it to us because we're all believers in this, but you've invented a crowdfunding piece of this. So this is not a profit center for you. What was the thinking behind the scenes of the Momo executives and creators to say, yeah, okay, we're money is flowing in from our for-profit business, but now we want to help people. most of us are charity type focused people here. What was the decision tree that got to you from making more profits or doing something good for people? What was that, how did that resolve itself? I'm just very curious.
Thank you for the question. I think that everything kind of came very natural. If we look at ourselves, we don't think that we are only business people. Lots of people was asking me why or like how to convince an organization to support social causes. And I always said that I'm a community person, go undercover within the company. So in a sense, we all believe in the power of small. The story of Momo all started with that. So we try to somehow help people to move money easily, transfer money easily, do a little bit of the finance and everything. And then along the way, I think the whole team, and actually the founding team of the crowdsourcing is coming from like 4 different organizations within the company. We came up with the idea and we implemented it. For people who are not really kind of familiar with it, it's a gamification. It's a community that formed around a gamification program that encourage people to live a good life. So every morning people get up, so they can just like walk for 4,000 steps, go and feed the piggy. So we have a kind of a piggy bank kind of character within the game. Feed it. Probably just go and answer. So learn a little bit about a couple of things. It can be English, can be something about environment, and then just take a small kind of. We have a golden piggy. Just take it and donate it to an organization. Many of them would just go and donate themselves for the organizations as a kind of co-funding for the cause. So I think that the whole idea behind it is. If we, and everyone, every user within our community have a good life, they learn something new just a little bit every day, they take care of themselves, of their health, they do something good for other people, then I think that everything will be better. So that's the way that we formed the idea. But eventually, I think the community stick together very, very, very well. So we have like millions of people joining the community, and the average amount of donation is really tiny. So it's 2,000 Vietnamese dong, or even a little bit less than that. How much of that is like a cent, like US a cent of US a cent a time. So it's a tiny one, but over the course of the past 5 years, we got. Roughly 400,000 US dollars, so it's like 100 million Vietnamese dong. So overall, it's about 5 million times of the donations with tiny cash, kind of given, kind of matching with all the funding of the donors of our kind of partners organizations on the platform. So I think that that's the whole idea of kind of making something big out of something very small every day, and how to make people feel better about themselves and about the society. And I think lots of people joining our platform, they are not kind of big philanthropists. Many of them are even shippers, housewives, even elderly people, and they do everything every day and try to do something good for someone else because it helps them to feel that they are better. So I think that's the whole concept behind this. And I think in terms of scale, even though like lots of time we claim about the amount, what we are most proud of is really the community, the number of people. So we have millions of people joining the platform. And the support that we have with like 1,400 projects within the past 5 years, many of them are MSD here in Vietnam. So I think that it's really is the harnessing and the supporting of the power of the community to make a change to our own environment here in Vietnam.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. I have to ask a follow-up question. I'm sorry, it's just my nature. It's really impressive how the crowdfunding part of your platform has just taken off. You are making philanthropists out of everyone. It's so easy to contribute. By the way, that mirrors a lot of data in other countries, including the United States, where the average donor to a United Way has a very low salary. They outnumber the high net worth people in a huge way because they've been there. They see what the need is. And so thank you for introducing this into Vietnam. Here's the tough question. So if I do my financial transactions on Momo, and these are my banking things, and I'm putting some money into a retirement account or whatever, and you charge me a percentage, is that percentage any different from the percentage that you charge for the donors who are doing good things on your site, on the crowdfunding part of your site? I'm sorry, that's an uncomfortable question, but I'm sure it's interesting to everybody in our audience.
Actually, we don't charge anymore. Yes, it's the decision a year ago, and I still remember it. Actually, it's a cost for the organization, which is coming from kind of moving the money through the banks and all the cost. But and we see that this is something that we can contribute, and this is, in a way, is a matching kind of activity that we do as a company to the fundraising. And I think, like, from a business point of view, we create a very good engagement of the users with our platform. I think that's the value that it's so hard for us to do it elsewhere. So I think in terms of the money, so at this moment, even the cost of kind of moving the money is free for all the organizations. And I think that's the only cost that people have. We have a team that's dedicated to this donation platform that the company fund. We screen the projects. We facilitate of the sharing of information, storytelling, reporting the result to the community, and organize community events. We fund the community ourselves with our own marketing money to encourage people to get engaged and into the activities. We fund the R&D cost behind the whole platform. But I think that tiny little bit of the transferring cost, we absorbed ourselves from last year to make sure that everything is kind of, like basically it's of no cost to our partners.
That I didn't expect that. You saw when we walked on stage, we shook hands. This was the very first time that we're meeting. We didn't set up that answer, the question or the answer, but that's a fantastic commercial for Momo, that they're absorbing the costs of us doing good things. That's incredible. Well, we owe you a lot for that, for a lot of things, but definitely for making it cost-free for individuals to help others in their community. Rosie, your turn. United Way in Chennai is well known for your grassroots philanthropy, grassroots fundraising, and your grassroots philanthropy, because you know Tamil Nadu better than anybody else. And you've been successful for many, many years. It's very, very curious to me how you match. So with your fundraising, how do you match that to the innovative programs that you're funding in and around Chennai, in and around Tamil Nadu? I understand that this is an open-ended question, but I'm just curious. with all of the incredible need that's in Chennai and surrounding areas, what's your decision-making factor in how you decide where those funds are going, and what are the impact projects that are the most outstanding in your head?
Good evening, everybody. So, thank you for having me in the panel. And I know it's been a long day. Can you hear? Yes. I'm not going to take much time. So, I mean, anyway, we have very short time, so I'll finish it off. So, please bear with us for a few more minutes. So, it's a good question, actually. Because most of the projects are, like I wish it could be need-driven, but most of the times it's donor-driven. So they have their priority in terms of vertical or the location. So even in terms of target group. So it's becoming a very challenge, to address to all the needs of the community, the actual needs of the community. So what we at United Way of Chennai, we do is like we organize this event, yearly annual event. I think most of the chapters do that, but we organize this markets and economy event, which is a very interesting one, where we have eminent speakers, keynote speakers, and we have panel discussions, and we discuss about the economy of the country, where most of the corporate and the banking sector people are very interested in. So this is purely a unrestricted fund which we raise. So we, we raise this fund and we support projects, especially in the remote areas of Tamil Nadu, wherever there is, a real need, and we have reached out to the most vulnerable and the deprived communities. So, in fact, I would like to share one small project which is very impactful and very meaningful also. So we identified this community, BD rolling community, in one of the districts in Tamil Nadu. Where they it's a cigarette with tobacco in it. So this community keeps rolling BD day in and out. So in a day they would actually have to roll out about 1,000 BDs. So there's a lot of health hazards as well when they do this work. Especially women are employed in this this particular activity. So what we did is we wanted to create an alternate livelihood for these women, and we wanted to rescue them from this hazard work. So we used some funds to support this particular community, and the project was a big success. Because it's not just empowered these women, it has created a lot of impact in their lives. So one is it gave them an identity of their own. And they were able to be part of the decision-making process in their families. They were able to spend, for their own health, which they were not doing it earlier. And they were also contributing to their family household expenses, be it for the education of their children or others, health needs, the family health needs, or if they have to, marry off their children. So especially the girl children after the age of 18. So this was like, it was really a very interesting project, and we could see a lot of outcomes, the impact. So most of the projects which we do, I mean, it created one or two results. So this was a wholesome result, I mean, as such, and not just for the women, for the entire family as well. And it was quite a very empowering project. So I thought, projects such as these can be supported, through the funds which we raise. So, and also with the background of, working in funding organizations, throughout. I've been in the development sector for about 25 years. So all these years I was on the giving side, and now I'm in the implementing organization on the receiving side. So it's pretty difficult and it's very challenging to raise funds. And especially the CSR, because majority of the fund comes from the CSR contribution, the corporate donations. So there, though there is a policy and all of these, there are certain, I mean, compliances, of course, it's there. apart from that, there are some, restrictions with regard to their own interest in the projects. Interest, or as I said before, about the target group or the location. So they are very particular. Some corporate, they say it should be within 20 kilometers, within 10 kilometers, which means like they would be in the city and around their factory or their office. So, but the real need is out somewhere else in the remote area. So convincing them is again a challenge. So there are few companies which are willing to go out of the area and support. So it's really a challenge, and we've been really doing that. So I think the other chapters also would agree to it because everybody is facing the challenge. But I think we are in the same boat. But still, these contributions really go a long way. I mean, it really supports so many people, and we are really reaching out to many people, many vulnerable and deprived people, and transforming their lives.
Yep.
So we feel very happy about it.
Thank you, Rosie. I wanted to follow on with Clayton with something, because he was describing to me the other day about a program that they have called The Hive, which I think is such a brilliant idea, that how to get into the community in a real way, in a completely detailed way, where you're stopping people in parking lots and telling them about offerings that they have for them that they don't know about. Clayton, would you mind taking a few minutes to just, because it's such a great example for other communities here. It described to us your thought process behind the Hive and how it came to be so successful.
Yeah, thanks, Gregory. The Hive is associated in a part of Western Sydney, a very, very low socioeconomic area. In over the years, lots of charities have come and gone, government programs have come and gone. They stay for a while, disappear. The community have no trust with charities, no trust with government, so very apprehensive. So when we went in there and started, the first thing we did was we actually did 1,000 interviews with residents to ask them what their issues were, what are their concerns are, what are their aspirations for their children. Did nothing for 2 years but asked questions and listened. We didn't tell them, we listened. Very low level of trust. There was a school that lots of parents walked back and forward to in the morning, and one of our partners has a little community hall there. And so what we did was actually a couple of our staff stood at the front gate as these families were walking their children to school, saying, "Hi, just wanted to let you know we've arrived and we're doing a few things. You might be interested in hearing some of the support systems we have in place for parents." Well, initially we got a terrible reaction. Nobody wanted to stop. Eventually, after a few weeks, people started to stop and listen. A few weeks later, we were able to actually put a coffee cart in the hall and then serve a coffee and pass it to the people going out. Months later, we set some tables up and families would come in and have a cup of coffee sitting around the table after they've dropped the kids off from school. Now that was 10 years ago. Today, that walk between where those families go to the school and that little hall sitting there, about 3 times a week, there's well over 100 people in there, all serving breakfast. There's 10 or 15 charities working there in community, and we've built the trust of community. And that's the critical thing, Gregory. You've got to build the trust of community, and you have to go in with this attitude of leave your logo and your ego at the door. It's about a partnership. Any charity that comes into the Hive, notice I didn't say United Way, I said the Hive. It's a separate branding, and there are about 15 organisations associated with that. It's about building trust, it's not promoting ourselves, it's being humble, and it's listening to what community want, and then incorporating them into the design process, community leadership, community governance. And we're now, talked about that maturity of the funding cycles, we're now at the point in that particular community where organisations won't be funding United Way. They'll be funding a cluster of organisations, because people now say this community, they've got the capacity and they've got the maturity to receive funding and start to develop their own future. So the funding will go to multiple organisations with great community governance. The community own it, the residents own it, and those underlying systems are changing, and we'll see poverty eradicated, not overnight, but it will happen.
Thank you, Clayton. That's Clayton Noble, United Way Australia. Ask him questions later on or via email, because this is such a great idea to take steel and put into your community. It's absolutely brilliant. Mr. Nguyen, I just wanted to ask you one quick one. So we learned how Momo does its finances. We learned how giving they are. Does Momo itself have a perspective on what the company should be giving to? Is there do you have a policy, or what do you judge yourself against at the end of the year on, what's your focus area on kind of your corporate philanthropy, if there is one?
I think a part of our philosophy is to serve the underserved. So we serve the underserved philanthropist. We serve the underserved people. We help the organizations to, our partners to help the kind of people who have kind of don't have many opportunities. So normally the projects that we support are mostly for disadvantaged people, children especially, because we believe in kind of investing into the children will be the best way for us to invest into the future. But also we see that that's the children, women, and some of the projects in elderly people, many projects in the rural areas, where we see that normally people don't have a lot of access to resources. That's probably is the most important kind of set of projects that we support. But at the same time, I don't think that that's our limit. We still believe that many of the choices should come from our community, and a way for the community to make the decision is that they pick the project that they support. They pick the project that they donate to. So normally we see that that's how the selection is kind of happening at this moment. We are working not only with the individuals at this moment, we are working with our merchant partners, and we also motivate them, but at the same time kind of help to bring the project that we already pre-qualified to them and encourage them to come in and donate as well. I think for those projects, normally the impact is a little bit more kind of in the urban area, sometimes more geared toward kind of sustainability issues, especially environment at this moment. But still, I think for us, it's all about disadvantaged people, people that cannot get the resources and the support from anywhere. I think that's the grassroots of our philosophy.
Superb, just superb. Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Last question, Rosie. So you gave us a picture of your unrestricted funding, which is always controversial within charitable organizations, because it's up to you to decide, and you can choose who you want around the table to decide where the unrestricted funding goes. I know that you do some non-traditional, some it's controversial programs in Tamil Nadu. tell us, give us a bigger picture, please, of those decisions, of where you're sending your unrestricted funding that could be looked on by your community as, you know, that's really not what we want to do here, because our traditions are this way and you're taking us in another way. Give us a little insight into either your board decisions or your senior staff decisions, how you make those really tough choices.
That's quite a hard one. So, with regard to our board is quite supportive, but then, you know, deciding on the projects, like, you know, what projects to take in and what to implement, that is decided by us. I mean, the leadership, you know, here, the CEO and COO, generally it's done by us. But obviously, the sharing of, you know, the information with regard to the lineup of projects, the potential projects, or the ongoing one, or the completed one, those are presented before the board during the board meeting. But other than that, I mean, like, you know, if we go for support, or, you know, we have discussions with, you know, board members, few of them, but the decisions are generally taken by, you know, us. Yes, because we do a proper need assessment. The team is there, and they bring in the information, and we see the vulnerability, and we focus on, you know, we give priority to the target, you know, community, be it women or children or adolescents, or, you know, and we also focus on the cross-cutting issues like gender, disability, caste. So based on that, we decide on the projects.
Thank you. I'm told that we're completely out of time. We're, in fact, over time. I wanted you to recognize what we've just witnessed today. We've got selfless philanthropy by a high-functioning, high-driven corporate representative here. It's amazing what Momo is doing. We've got some fearless philanthropy going on in Chennai, and some really innovative, smart, new stuff going on in Australia. I don't know if you've got as much as I got out of listening to our panelists today, but please help me give them a big round of applause for contributing with us.
Thank you very much, our panelists and moderator, for the wrapping up